Right, so the next generation iPad Air 5 is about to get a whole lot more pro with 5G quad speakers, A15 and dual cameras, and so let's delve into this report, but first, make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumors, and with that being said, let's just tuck in. Right, so the following information is from Makatakara. They have an accuracy rating of 64%, which is pretty mixed, so take the information with a massive grain of salt. Anyways, delving in, the first thing they say is that the iPad Air is going to get the iPad Pro's design. And well, this might be a little confusing at first, because the iPad Air already has the iPad Pro design, so what do they exactly mean? Well, they're referring to the 2020 and 2021 iPad Pro design with the dual cameras on the back. That's apparently coming over to the iPad Air 5. Now, I do want to say that Makatakara believes the LiDAR scanner is not guaranteed to be coming, but that's not a massive issue because who actually uses the LiDAR scanner on the iPad Pro? Like, seriously, it's the most useless feature in the world, so yes, I will happily live without it on the iPad Air 5. Now, as for the dual cameras on the iPad Air 5, I'm a little conflicted about this report because on one hand, yes, I'm totally down for more cameras on the iPad. Also, another thing that bothers me about the iPad Air is the fact its camera does not fit with the camera cutout on the Magic Keyboard. That always infuriates me, so yes, Apple could fix that with the iPad Air 5, and I would be one very, very happy man. But at the same time, Apple does use cameras on the back to differentiate their products. For example, you have 2 cameras on the back of the Broke Boy iPhone, and then of course 3 cameras on the Pro iPhones, and so much like that, you have single cameras on all the Broke Boy iPads, and then the big boy, the iPad Pro, has dual cameras. And I do think some consumers see that, hey, this iPad has more cameras, that means it's a billion times better, so I'm gonna buy it instead. And I feel like Apple could be losing out on the upselling tactic if the iPad Air and the iPad Pro were pretty much visually the same. The only way this could make sense, in my opinion, is if the 2022 iPad Pro comes with a new design, because we have heard about glass backs and larger sizes coming to future iPads, and so there's a chance that maybe along with that, we see a triple lens camera on the iPad Pro like some rumors in the past have suggested. And yes, I know you may be wondering, why does anyone need a triple lens camera on a bloody iPad? Well, I'm not too sure myself. I guess it would be a flex, but at least it would be a visual difference between the smaller iPad Pro and the iPad Air 5, and in that instance I can see Apple giving the iPad Air 5 the 11-inch iPad Pro's design with the dual cameras. But of course, if we see no major redesign with the 2022 iPad Pro, then I don't see the iPad Air 5 getting this new design because they would be way too similar in terms of appearance, and that would confuse buyers. And that brings me on to the next thing Makatakara mentions that's also very unrealistic, and that is quad speakers on the next generation iPad Air. So guys, I can't lie, the biggest deal breaker for me with the iPad Air 4 was the fact it had dual speakers, because as some of you iPad Pro owners might know, once you experience quad speakers on the iPad Pro, it's a magical experience that you can't live without. And so yes, I absolutely need quad speakers on my next iPads. And so yeah, I just couldn't get the iPad Air 4. Now yes, I would be very, 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 very happy with quad speakers on the iPad Air 5, but I think it's unrealistic for the same reason as the dual cameras, because the quad speakers are a massive advantage the iPad Pro has, and I'm sure there's many of you guys like me who need quad speakers on your iPads, and so we're pretty much forced to get the iPad Pro even if we don't need the Pro features for quad speakers alone. And obviously Apple wants that to be the case because you're spending more money and they're earning more money. So yes, I don't see Apple giving the iPad Air 5 quad speakers because it's one of the biggest assets of the iPad Pro. Thankfully, the next feature does seem pretty realistic, and it's a feature a lot of you guys have patiently been waiting for, and that is 5G. 5G just got real on the iPad Air 5. So we all know Apple's riding the 5G hype wave and they're giving us 5G on so many products. Soon there's gonna be AirPods 5G, Magic Mouse 5G, Apple Pencil 5G, and so it just makes sense that the iPad Air also gets 5G. And not just any 5G, but millimeter wave 5G, the one that's incredibly fast, but can be stopped by a branch. Anyways, yes, 5G is coming to the iPad Air 5. This makes sense because Apple has contracts with Qualcomm to produce a certain amount of 5G products, and since we're seeing the A15 and the iPhone 13s and they're getting 5G, it makes sense that Apple brings this option over to the iPad Air 5. Though do remember that much like the iPad Pro, I do expect a $200 premium for the 5G feature on the iPad Air, but of course, it's easily worth it. 5G is the next big thing. 5G changed my life, so yes, $200 for something so revolutionary is really great value. Okay, jokes aside, let's now move on to another upgrade I think is pretty realistic, and that's the A15, because the iPad Air 3 and the iPad Air 4 both got the latest A-series processors when they launched, and so it makes a ton of sense the iPad Air 5 follows suit. Now surprisingly, Makatakara mentions nothing about the OLED display that's apparently coming to the iPad Air 5, according to some other sources, but the fact they mention nothing and the fact that the very credible Ross Young also believes that the iPad Air is getting OLED in 2023 and not 2022 leads me to believe that we're gonna see the 60Hz LCD panel we have on the iPad Air 4 on the iPad Air 5 as well. And yes, I'm pretty sure we're not seeing mini LED on this iPad Air 5 because that's a pro feature, and of course, as I've said many times in this video, Timothy wants your money, he wants you buying that maxed out 12.9-inch iPad Pro with mini LED, even if you don't really need the pro features. He wants to upsell you and get you to spend more of your money, so yes, I don't see the iPad Air ever getting the mini LED panels we have on the iPad Pro. Now regarding the display size, it's going to be 10.9 inches, much like this year's model, and by the way, I do want to ask, why do we have a 10.9 inch display on the iPad Air 4? Why can't it just be 11 inches like the iPad Pro? That's always puzzled me, but anyways, yes, we're going to see the weird 10.9 inch display on the iPad Air 5 too. And also Makatakara confirms that Touch ID is staying on the iPad Air 5, so Face ID will remain as a Pro exclusive, though do note, Mark Gurman did say that Apple's future plan is to convert every product in the lineup to Face ID, so that means there is a very small chance we could see Face ID on the iPad Air 5, and an even bigger chance on the iPad Air 6. So yes, soon enough you will be able to do Animoji stuff on your iPad Air, which I guess is pretty cool. Now Makatakara says nothing about the release date, but we do have information from other sources that suggest an early 2022 release, so I expect the iPad Air 5 to launch in either March or April. That makes the most sense to me. But let me know in the comments below which upgrade are you looking forward to seeing with the iPad Air 5. Anyways, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumors. Check out the video in the link above on details regarding the iPad Mini 6. And on that note, I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya, peeps.